Hello, this video is going to help you solve problem number 1 on practice set number 3. And so let's take it from number 1. This is a banking money creation problem. And I started off with a bank has $100,000 in required reserves, $900,000 in loans, and $1 million in deposits. So this is enough information for you to set up a balance sheet, assets and liabilities. And a deposit is going to be on the liability side, and reserves and loans are on the asset side. So it's going to look something like this. So the deposit of $1 million is the liability. Now remember, these two have to equal. Required reserves is 100,000 and loans 900,000. So this is $1 million and this is $1 million. So the initial deposit was $1 million and it generated a bank balance sheet as such. Now let's go to B. What is the reserve requirement of this bank? Well, you know what required reserves are, 100,000, and you know what the deposit was, $1 million. So this is simply going to be 100,000 divided by $1 million. Required reserves over deposits equals 10%, and so your reserve requirement is 10%. Now, using the money multiplier, determine the maximum amount of additional deposits that can be created with the initial deposit of $1 million. Now, keep in mind, I had a typo in the original problem set. This used to say 100,000, and that's confusing. So what I want you to do is I want you to change that 100,000 to $1 million. Because what I want you to do is I want you to consider the initial deposit of $1 million, right? Initial deposit right here of $1 million. And right now, this bank has loaned out all of their excess reserves, 900,000, and it has 100,000 in required reserves. Now, please, this is important. When this initial deposit was made, it first generated excess reserves of 900,000, but this bank loaned it out. So you just didn't see that first step here. So when this bank received a deposit of $1 million, it generated excess reserves of 900,000. And that's what's going to determine how many deposits are created in total after a series of lending, redepositing, lending, redepositing. And so, let's look at that. So using the money multiplier, determine the additional deposits that can be created with an initial deposit of $1 million. Well, we know that the money multiplier is 1 over the reserve requirement ratio, and the reserve requirement ratio is 10%. So 1 over 10% is 10. And so the excess reserves resulting from additional deposit of $1 million is 900,000. So this is how much excess reserves were created when this money, $1 million, was deposited. And that's what we're going to use in our equation. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our money multiplier, which is 10, multiply it by the excess reserves, 900,000, and that's going to give us an additional amount of deposits of $9 million. So that's how much money has been created. Now, how much is the money supply in total? Well, we started out with $1 million, and the banking system created another $9 million. So the new money supply is now $10 million. Finally, so that's problem set number 1. Problem number 1. So I'll make some more videos and go through the rest of the problems.